Welcome to Season 5 of the Get Out of Teaching podcast, presented by Larksong Enterprises. This podcast is for teachers who are considering leaving education but feel like they have no options. I'm your host, Elizabeth Diakos. I'm a career transition coach who guides overwhelmed teachers through a 5-step process out of education and into a life they love. I'd like to see a world where the work of teachers is valued and respected, and that teachers have a career pathway that enables them to continue to offer value to society beyond their work in the classroom. So in this season, we'll be speaking with wellbeing experts who can help you to stay well as you plan your exit. If you're almost ready to leave and you need to redo your resume, check out my Resume Revamp digital download. It's a comprehensive guide to making your resume show off your assets. For $49.95 Australian dollars, you'll get pre-filled, eye-pleasing resume and cover letter templates in both US letter and A4 size, a lexicon of teacher terminology with a translation to corporate speak, and a bonus PDF on getting past applicant tracking software. Check out the Resume Revamp package on the product page of larksong.com.au and come along for the ride as we get out of teaching. Episode 11. Hi everyone and welcome to the show. On today's show, I'm really pleased to be interviewing Bronwyn Shortino, who's an international author and simplicity expert. Welcome to the Get Out of Teaching podcast, Bronwyn.
Hi, so great to be here. Can't wait to see where our conversation goes.
Oh, yeah, me either. Okay, so Bronwyn, as you know, this season of the Get Out of Teaching podcast is about helping teachers to stay well while they plan their exit strategy. And so I'm looking for tips, insights, strategies, and maybe some personal experience about how you've dealt with similar situations. So tell us about what you do and who you help.
Yeah, so I guess probably the great place to start there is to explain that I did not look after myself before I got out. I actually experienced the ultimate absolute crash. My life shattered into a million pieces on the floor around me because I took no time to look after myself at all. And so now I spend every day.
No, wait. You can't just, you've got to give us more now. You have to tell us the backstory. Okay. Tell us a little bit about how you got to that place.
Sure. So I spent almost 20 years in the corporate world. And I had various different roles during that time. But for the last probably 12 years of that, I was in senior executive roles and basically just running around after everybody else, making sure that everybody else was okay, doing everything for everybody else and giving nothing to myself. And there's a real synergy with that with teachers. You know, I've done quite a bit of work with teachers, and what I see every day is the level of give that they give to others, the caring, the nurturing, the nourishing that they give to everybody else, and they leave no time of that for themselves. And that was very similar for myself. And that all changed for me when I went to my GP for just an annual checkup. And I'd had a patch of what they told me was psoriasis on my head for about 8 years. Okay. And in the 12 months up to that point, it had actually grown significantly, which was, you know, normal for psoriasis because I was under extreme stress. And even at that point, the doctor said to me, look, I think it's okay, but we'll send you to the dermatologist just in case. And when I got to the dermatologist, he looked at it, and in less than 10 seconds, it was, that's not psoriasis, that's skin cancer, and you're going to need plastic surgery.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that's the point where, you know, pretty much everyone just, their life flashes up in front of their face, and they're suddenly having a look and saying, you know, what do I need to do here? How do I need to do things differently? What needs to change? For me, that moment was frustration and annoyance, because how was I going to fit that into my day? How was I going to find time in my diary to look after myself?
Can I just ask you, like, you're obviously still here. Where was it? Like, was it on your face or you?
Yeah, so it's actually under here. Like, okay. It's a big hole in my head under my hair.
Okay.
And it's sorry, that's my 6-month-old kitten wanting to say hi. Yeah, so basically I gave myself half a day to have 6 centimeters of my head cut out. And then I was back on the laptop that same afternoon working, looking after everybody else's problems again.
Wow.
4 days later, I went back to the surgeon, had all the staples and the bandages and the stitches taken out. And for some reason, the surgeon left the room. And I walked across the room to the mirror, had a look, and what was reflecting back at me was like a quarter of my head was missing. And the shock of seeing that literally just shattered me. It just completely flipped me into a different reality. And that moment is what triggered a complete turning point in my life, and a journey of 3 years of really intensive soul searching, overwhelming and invasive work that I needed to do to put myself back together. And as part of that process, I wrote my first book, Keep It Super Simple. And as that went out into the world, everyone's saying, this is amazing. We all need this. Can't believe it's like you've written it for me. How else can I work with you? So today I basically do workshops, leadership development. People use one-on-one my programs, my books, to basically turn their lives around, adopt a really simplistic approach to turn their life in the direction that's right for them. And as part of that process, it makes it so much easier to really cut the pathway to burnout, but also to reduce stress and really eliminate exhaustion from your life completely.
Wow, so that's a pretty compelling story. So when you got to that point where you were at this turning point in your life, how did you come back from that? Like, what happened next?
Yeah, so I went into this void type place where everything around me was just, it's like everything was operating as usual, but I was separate from it. And it's like everybody was asking me questions, and I could hear what they were saying, but I couldn't cognitively process or understand what they were saying. And I couldn't cognitively process what my response to the questions were. And it's like my intelligence left, everything I knew about the future, everything I knew about who I was, all the plans for moving forwards, every relationship that I had, everything just went. It was like there was nothing there. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't just click my fingers and work out what the solution was and how to move forwards and how to solve things quickly and fix everyone's problems, because I was so broken. There was just nothing. And
okay, so really practically, who looked after you while that was happening?
Yeah, so my husband was there with me, and when you look at it from his perspective, he went from having an award-winning executive, highly functioning wife to a complete dependent in less than 60 seconds. So his life was completely upended as well. And he's an engineer, so he's all about the detail. And there was no detail. There was just nothing. I couldn't explain anything I was experiencing to anyone because I didn't understand it myself. And so we're in this space of, we had no idea what was going on. And he's a detail person and a fixer. So he's trying to grasp at straws, trying to fix things. And as part of that process, that means that he was in his mind saying, well, this is what the problem is, therefore this is what fixes it. And so he's trying to fix things, and it was just making it worse. And because I didn't understand, so he couldn't understand, and it was a big mess. And I was just very lucky that a friend of mine, because I had no real conscious experience of the phone ringing or messages coming through on Facebook or any of that sort of stuff, but there was one that actually came through that registered in my consciousness, and I answered the phone. And this friend of mine had phoned, and when I told her what was going on, she said to me, my sister works at the hospital with a lady who deals with patients in distress and trauma as a result of cancer. I'm going to make you an appointment with her. And she didn't even ask me if that's what I needed. She just said, this is what I'm doing for you. And she did that, and my husband got me there. And this lady, I was just, the people that I got to work with, the people that appeared in my life at the time when I needed them, were just extraordinary. And they were all people who, none of them told me what was wrong with me. None of them told me how to fix myself. All of them just gave me the space and asked me questions that allowed me to ask questions to find my own answers. And the power in that is extraordinary. And so that's all of my work now is based in that model. It's, you know, when you look at the world today, everything out there is based around, here's the problem. You know, you're overweight, therefore this is the exercise system you need, this is the food you need, you can eat this, you can't eat that, this is what fixes you. None of it comes from an approach of you're a unique, extraordinary individual, therefore you need a unique and extraordinary solution. And if there is that option out there, then people are charging tens of thousands of dollars, and it's not actually attainable for everyday average people. And even then, in that bespoke world, it's still a system that you follow where they tell you what's wrong with you and here's what fixes you. And so you can only sit in that space for a period of time before you are still squashing yourself into a mold that someone else says is right for you. So all of my work now is about helping people to ask the questions that empower them to know what's going on for them, and then it empowers them to create the solution for them. So, you know, I'm not interested in selling anybody my life. I'm not interested in selling anybody anything that's mine, because it's mine and it suits me and it's been built specifically for me. I'm interested in creating tools and resources that help people to find those solutions for themselves, about themselves. And I think that that's what's so sorely missing in the world today. And I think that's why we find ourselves so far down these burnout, stress and exhaustion paths, because we're doing what everybody else tells us is right for us. We're ticking the boxes. We're saying, I've got the right education, I work at the right place, I've driven the right car, my house is in the right suburb, my haircut's the right way, I eat the right foods, I've got the right pets, the right children, I've ticked all the boxes, and yet here I am, I'm still unwell, unmiserable, unhappy.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so just step back for a second. With that, you're talking about this kind of tailored approach, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And yet I have connection with 15,000 sad, overwhelmed teachers who are feeling demoralized and like they're not being able to be authentic in the classroom, or they're disrespected, or what, insert issue here, because there are lots of issues, not just one. And yet I find that by and large, they want a solution that's just a one size fits all. This is what you need to do next. So how do you address that when people they're so desperate, they just will clutch at straws to have anything that will fix it?
That is our way of life. And if you want to keep chasing it, but expect that nothing will change. Because what do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. The thing is, right, we're taught, and there are certain professions as well that really, really push this line. We are taught that if we do anything for ourselves, it's selfish. If we do things for ourselves, then we have less to give to others. And what I've found from my journey is that it's almost like the counterintuitive of everything you've been taught about your life. I always give to myself first every single day, and I give so much more than I ever gave before, but where I give and how I give is so much more aligned with who I am now, that it doesn't reap my energy. It doesn't absolutely take all of my energy away to do it. So it's not about, I think people think that to have a simple life, for example, that means you must be a minimalist, or you must have no fun, or you must have no money, and you must have no things, and you must all of these things, right? Having a simple life really just means finding the things that you love and then finding the simplest and easiest pathway to having them. That's all that a simple life is about. And we get caught so much in the chaos, and we get ourselves so wrapped up, and we get ourselves so tired and exhausted doing all of these things that we're supposed to be doing, that we do get desperate for that thing that will just be able to click our fingers and solve our problems. And the thing is, if we keep chasing these ones where it's just a done for me solution, then we're going to keep having the same responses. We're going to keep having the same life, and we're going to keep having the same experiences. So it's not that the tailor-made bespoke is difficult. It's not that it's hard. It's just that you're thinking about yourself and you're finding the answers that are right for you. So it doesn't have to be hard just because it's tailor-made.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been using as an example this fictional character called Donna. She's a teacher. She's been teaching she's 52.
Yep.
She's been teaching for about 30 years.
Yep.
And she's had enough. She's hit the wall.
Yep.
It's no longer her passion for whatever reason. Almost doesn't matter.
Everything's harder when you're tired. Yep.
And she can't face the prospect of what realistically is at least another 20 years in the classroom.
Yep.
Because retirement, I think, I don't know what it actually is meant to be, 68 or something here in Australia. But my neighbours and my friends
just keeps going up.
Are like in their early 70s now. Yep. Before they're retiring.
Yeah.
So, and I imagine that's going to only continue to, get later and later, up to a point, I guess there'll be dementia will set in first for everyone. But, so let's say it's 72. Poor Donna's got another almost the same amount of time again to look, for her career, and she just can't face it in the classroom.
Yep.
So she wants to plan a strategy. She's got no idea what else to do. She can't imagine not teaching, but she also can't imagine doing anything different. And it's just overwhelming and really stressful and scary, and this
tiring
into the unknown, just like into the void. Like, what is this going to be? What's this going to look like? So how would you help someone in that situation?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, well, there's so many different ways we could start here, right?
I know. Well,
because
pretend it's me. Say it to me. Like, I'm Donna, which is not untrue. Like I was 50. I started when I was 42. I got to 50 and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still here. I never planned to still be there. I thought I would have moved on to at least to another school by then. And I still was. And I'm like, I cannot keep doing this.
Yeah. So there's so many different angles, right? And so many of these things are covered in my books, right? First up is a comfort zone, right? Your comfort zone is not comfortable. You're sitting in your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone, because your comfort zone is killing you. Secondly is, let's have a look at busy. What are you actually busy doing? Because so many of us compete for the busy badge. This is my kitten playing again. So many of us are competing for the busy badge, and we don't even realize that we're doing it. We've transitioned into this highly visible world that teaches us that we have to be competitive all the time. And we actually don't have to keep up with anybody else. We just have to do our own thing. Change, we're so afraid of change, all of us. In fact, we're more afraid of change than we are of death now. And it's not until we have that event that brings us closer to death that we realize change is not that big a deal.
No message.
Just walked on the phone.
Pressing the answering machine. That's clever.
Yeah. So, but there's also things like, is there still a passion for teaching? Because there are so many ways to teach now. Teaching is not just about standing in front of a classroom. There's such a skill set that comes with teaching. There's this transition into the online environment. What can you teach that you can put into an online program that you could take around the world? There's so many platforms now that allow you to do that. There are so many ways that you can think about things differently. And what it comes back to is, what are you passionate about? What do you love? And how can you simply create a process for you to be able to do those things? I think we get into this mindset that we're stuck. We have to stay where we are. And I experienced it myself, right? I came from the financial services and funds management industry, and now I'm an author and I do like workshops and mentoring and all of that sort of stuff. When I first started my business, I felt like I knew nothing. And so I went out and I found all these people to help me to set up my business, and what does it need to look like, and what do I need to know? And, and I paid thousands of dollars to do that. And they told me all the things that I had to do. And even though I'd been through what I'd been through, I followed what they told me to do. And I was miserable. I hated it. I had to drag myself out of bed every morning, even though I'd created this new life for myself.
Right.
And it wasn't until I realized that my business was set up for somebody else and for what worked for them, I still had to relearn that lesson. Because I'm a unique individual, what they were doing is not what I needed to be doing. I needed to do it differently and in a very different way. And the second I stepped into that, a global business in the click of a fingers, and I suddenly had to work out how I was going to make that work for me. So I would say there's a process to go through. There's questions that you can ask. There's different ways that you can look at it. You don't have to stay stuck where you are. If you're a teacher and teaching is what you love, how can you do that in a way that really, reignites the passion and gives you what you need out of it as well, but also allows you to structure your day to support yourself to give what you need to give. It's not about you have to stay and do things the same way that they've always been done. There are so many different ways and so many different options that are so easily accessible now. You can use your skills to go and, you don't even have to teach children anymore. You could teach adults. There's so many options. It's about really having a look and getting out of the comfort zone, allowing the comfort zone to just sit to the side for a minute so that you can explore and see what the options are. And then it's create small little achievable steps to get you there. And you don't have to drop everything and start doing this. You can transition. But ultimately, it's about what do we do to reduce your stress and support you from a self-care point of view so that you can get your energy back to be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah, I think that's really valid. Like just the thought of having to do all that stuff when you're already exhausted.
Yeah.
Like I know, I mean, I just, bailed and, waited to see what would happen kind of thing without a plan really. Unfortunately, I tried to have a plan, but I couldn't find anyone to help me. So then I just left anyway. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because exactly for that reason. But if I'd been able to create some of the plan beforehand, like even just little things like get a business name, actually set up the business, like do the paperwork for that. Learn how to take money so that when I had my first client, I was ready for their payment to go in. Little things like that. You can do that in a few hours on the weekend. It's not a huge kind of, you don't have to even know exactly what you're going to do with that, but you can still create it. So there's ways to move forward.
Tiny little
I
steps.
Just didn't even know where to begin.
Tiny little steps that you can put together that you can just do one at a time and progress. It's not about this overwhelm of I've got to get all of this done. And, we spend so much time there and it just puts us into absolute fear.
Yeah. So if someone wanted to work with you, what would the process look like?
Working with me? Do you mean as in how to contact me or what I would do when I was working with someone?
Both of those things.
Okay. So contact
an opportunity for explaining how you actually help people. And also shameless self-promotion.
Yeah. I'm not good at shameless self-promotion.
I'm giving you permission. Go nuts.
Okay, so easiest way to contact me is you can go through the website. That's got all my contact details on it. Or
which is called?
So chiclife.com, which is SHEIQLIFE.com. And there's a contact section on the website that you can actually.
So I'll put those links in the show notes for this episode as well, so people can find you.
Perfect. And while you're putting those show notes in as well, there's a free email series that's 7 steps to beat stress forever. So jump in and grab hold of that because it's free and you'll get a whole heap of information there. And also LinkedIn and Facebook is where I spend most of my time. And that's under Bronwyn Shortino on LinkedIn and Bronwyn Shortino author on Facebook.
Nice.
So that's the easiest way to contact me. In terms of how I work with people, it really depends on the person and what they need. It might be that you're too shy and you don't want to work one-on-one. Great, grab a group of friends and we'll do a group session. I usually don't have more than sort of 8 or 9 people in a group because you want to have it where it's still the ability to ask personal questions. But if there's a group of you that want to know what to do with the transition, great. Let's work out what we can do from a group point of view. One-on-one stuff is more very personalized in terms of you tell me what you want, and then we work out the program for how you're going to get there. I work very, very intuitively. So when you're talking to me and you're saying, this is what's happening for me, I will actually get a download of what you need, what I need to give you in terms of what you need in the moment. And also the questions that I need to ask you for you to be able to find out what's going on for you in that moment as well. So it's very personalized. It's very tailored. And it will be things like, you know, I might give you an I am exercise so that you can start to really download for yourself what your I ams are. So, you know, most of us lose sight of who we are through the process of ticking the boxes and doing all the things that we're supposed to do. We forget that, you know, I'm intelligent and I'm strong and I'm athletic and I'm, you know, I'm loving and I'm caring. But when we start to write those things down for ourselves, we start to really reconnect with the essence of who we are. And that starts to guide what we do every day. And that starts to remind us of the things that are valuable to us, the things that are important to us. And those things start to guide the direction of how we get our energy and how we keep our energy high. And once we start to connect with those things, then we get less stressed about what we're doing, because we're not doing things that drain our energy and we're not doing things that cause us angst. So for me, it's really about finding the process and helping you to tailor make that life that's perfect for yourself, and then you know, source the tools or create the tools and the resources for you to be able to do what you need to do simply.
So with that, the simple idea, you said before that it's not about a minimalist life. So how would you sort of, you know, in 3 or 4 sentences, how would you describe what it actually is? Because I think that there's something really appealing about, in this crazy, overwhelming world, to create simplicity. It's quite attractive.
Yeah. So for me, it's about cutting the noise and the chaos. It's about knowing who I am and what I need to be okay, and then giving that to myself every single day so that I'm fully fueled to go out into the world and give the world the things that they need. You know, giving to other people and being a tool, but creating tools and resources and being a tool and a resource for other people is such an important part of who I am. And for me, it's really important to honor that. You know, it's so easy for us to say that's the thing that breaks us. That's the thing that lets us down. But, you know, if it's such an integral part of who you are, why would you deny it? Why wouldn't you just find the way that you can have that and give that to the world and do the things that are really important to you and that feel really good to you, but in a way where you're supported to do that?
So can you tell us what's a day look like in your day?
Yeah, look, I get asked this question a lot, and I'm more than happy to tell you what that is. But I guarantee you, the second I tell you what it is, you'll all be going, "Oh, there's no way I could do that." And that's because it's perfect for me.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, of course.
It's been tailor-made for me. And it suits my life perfectly, because you've got to remember I'm working across different time zones at you know, different times of the day and night.
Yeah,
so what I do is about making sure I'm energized to be able to do that. So I would start my day with meditation, and then I go into some form of exercise / movement. So for me, that might be yoga, it might be going for a bike ride, it might be going for a walk. Then I would have a cup of tea. Then I'll have my breakfast. Then I'll have a shower. And around 10 a.m., I start getting in and thinking about work. Now, that might be watching some sort of documentary or research or any of that sort of stuff. It might be sitting down and writing, because I understand that my energy flow, my really high energy period, is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. each day. So I'm doing the things in that time that require a lot of thinking, energy, downloading, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm creating in that, and whether that's researching, and while I'm researching, I'm creating, because I'm finding bits of research and then actually working out how that fits into what I'm doing and what I can create off the back of that. I'll be doing, you know, podcast interviews, media stuff, whatever it is. From 2 p.m. to probably about 2:30, I'm having lunch. So my food times are completely out of whack with normal, this is when you should eat, and because that's what works for me. So about 2:30 I'm having lunch. And interspersed throughout all of this, I'm playing with my amazing kittens because they're just so much fun. And they just bring so much joy. And then I may or may not do some more work in the afternoon. And if I do, it's usually things like, the accounts or admin sort of stuff that doesn't take a lot of thought processing for me.
Right. That would be the opposite for me.
Yes.
Like I'm terrible at that stuff. I need to give it my full undivided attention and scowl a lot.
Yeah, okay. So you might want to do that in a high energy period of the day for you, because that might be something that takes a lot of energy for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of energy for me, but it's not my favorite task, but I will just put it into an afternoon sort of period where I don't really have to have loads of energy attached to it. And then I'm sort of thinking about dinner and then sitting down and having time with my husband. And often of an evening, if I'm doing stuff overseas, then I'm either doing that first thing in the morning if I have to, or it's an evening type thing for that sort of thing. Most teachers will be sitting there just going, there's no way I could do that. I have to be at work by blah, blah, blah. And I think we need to stop getting wrapped up in what I can't do, and we need to start thinking about what I can do. So, managing your energy is all about knowing where your energy flows during the day and how best you need to re-energize. So what are the activities you need to be able to re-energize every day, and then giving that to yourself so that you can minimize your stress. You can actually apply your energy in ways that it's going to be beneficial for you, but also you're always refilling the energy tank. You're not just constantly draining. So you're less tired, because when you're exhausted, everything's hard. It doesn't matter whether you love it or not, it's hard. So, it's about getting into the process where you can constantly refuel, and then you've got the energy to do the things you need to do. But I, generally do the things I love to do. I do them in a way I love to do them. And that keeps me happy and wanting to get out of bed and wanting to move. And I'm really conscious as well, for me, of the way that I nourish my system and my body. And I'm just constantly giving myself what I need so that I can then take things out at a higher level on a global scale.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you. All right. So before we wrap this up, I've got one final question for you.
Yep.
Bronwyn, what's your favorite song?
Look, I'm an eclectic soul, so I love, my ultimate would be seeing like the symphony orchestra play Khe-Sanh or something like that, because I love like the mixture of things. If I had to just pick, I'd probably say Khe-Sanh, because it's probably the song I know the most words to. And I'm a bit of a closet rock chick.
Okay, nice. And so is it the ballad sort of aspect, or that sort of swelling, like epic kind of feel to it? Is that the thing?
Yeah, I think I just like the energy that comes with it.
Yeah.
Nice. And the energy that's created in a crowd when it's sung, and everybody knows that it's such an anthem, really.
Yeah.
And where that takes the crowd when they get involved and that sort of stuff. I think I really love that about it.
Nice. Bronwyn Shortino, thank you so much for coming on the Get Out of Teaching podcast today. It's been a delight.
Thanks so much for having me.
You've been listening to the Get Out of Teaching podcast, presented by Larksong Enterprises, with your host Elizabeth Diakos. Thanks for listening. If you need more support in your journey out of education, check out larksong.com.au and book a triage call. I'm a career transition coach for educators, and I support teachers in their journey out of education and into a life they love. I've been where you are now, and you don't need to do this alone.